Welcome to the DCL Superfinal for 2024. I'm Matt Andrews, we're the Drone Champions League. For the first time, we took our year-long World Championship season and split it into three. The 7 teams who competed in them scored points at the end of each of those splits. These are the 4 teams who are the best of the year. One of them will be our new World Champion. Could it be Cyclone Racing? With Neon, Killian, Yayu and J-Box, and the winners of splits 1, 2 and 3, surely the favourites. The Spain drone team, though, they have been challenging them very closely all year. Danube and Silvio, the 2 long-term members, and then the 2 brothers who've been brilliant, Platon Air and Red Sheep. Quad Force 1 from America have been with us since 2018. They've never won the title. They were close last year. Shane, Screecher, QTFPV and Hyper, this could be the time. Raiden Racing are the only one of these 4 teams who've ever had the world title before. Valprim, Visenmayan, IQ0 and Halo Walker, they want it back. Here's how Raiden and the other 3 teams made it to the Super Final. After the 3 splits earlier this year, these are the points they accumulated, most recently out in Abu Dhabi. Now we have these 4 teams going to start off with a round-robin group stage. They'll all battle each other. That'll get them ranked into the elimination format. So it's time to find our world champion for 2024. Let's go to the sky. Cyclone Racing against Spain Drone Team. What a way to start with Yayu and J-Box against Sali 1 and Red Sheep. For the Super Final, the World Championship battle, we're on a new track in an old favourite location. This is Lax in Switzerland. It's one of the best snowboarding parks in the world. We took it over in 2019 with a real drone race. We've raced it virtually many times since our pilots have had very little time to learn this brand new track to challenge them. Sali 1 and Yayu clearly getting to grips with it quickly. They are barely a few thousandths of a second apart. Red Sheep and J-Box within half a second too. Here's Yayu leading them at the moment through this split test and getting taken on the inside by Sali 1, who's extremely close to the ice, and now he's back behind Yayu again. So that put Sali 1 into the lead, but now he's got to do a bit more fighting. We're on to lap number 2 already. All 4 pilots still pretty close, although J-Box just slipped a little bit further behind for Cyclone. Yayu going through the castle here. Sali 1 trying to get past him. We'll take a look on board with this pilot for STT, and he was one of the team who won the World Championship in 2023. That team are no longer with us, but Sali 1 wants to win it again and do it with STT this time. Yayu from Cyclone Racing finding his way around the waffle. Sali 1 just swinging in and out of his vision too, as he's just snuck in front of him by a few tenths, by about a quarter of a second now. Yayu in second, going a little high around those ramps, and that is absolutely ruined him. I don't see Yayu crashing and getting into so much trouble after a crash like that very often. He is nowhere in the picture now. Look, STT, Sali 1 and Red Sheep, and then there are 6 or 7 seconds before J-Box and Yayu are anywhere near this. So we're on board with the brilliant 9-year-old Red Sheep. He's a wonderful pilot, along with his brother, who's a few years older than him and will be up in the next race. And Red Sheep currently chasing around behind Sali 1, who's 1.5 seconds ahead of his teammate. And there is no challenge coming from Cyclone against either of them just now. This is where Yayu got all tangled up, but Red Sheep stays down, although he did have to just adjust it as he did so. Sali 1 is going through the A2RL gate, which marks the end of the lap. He's now got the straight run into the finish gate. Red Sheep is coming in second, 2 seconds behind him. He's celebrating out of his chair, as he so often does. And Sali 1 and Red Sheep take STT to a big start, a 7-3 win over Cyclone. Now there'll be another 2v2 featuring the other 2 pilots from each team, so Killian and Neon against Danube and Red Sheep's brother Platon Air. Now, we haven't seen Killian in the simulator for some time. He's a world-famous pilot, one of the very, very best in the world. He was instrumental in Cyclone Racing winning Split 3 in our real-life race in Abu Dhabi, but he's not known as a sim racing competitor, so it'll be interesting to see what Killian can do here. Neon's been with the team for some time. Platon Air is one of the newer pilots alongside Red Sheep for STT. Danube is the pilot who's been with the Spain drone team the longest. Oh, there's a bit of a bump for Neon. Let's let Killian get in front of him, and Platon Air and Danube from STT are within just 2 tenths or so behind the pair from Cyclone. Killian leading out. Danube has got between him and his teammate Neon, who's dropped down into third, now back into second, just alongside Danube, and Platon Air just about 2 tenths behind all of them. This is much closer at this stage than it was in our first race of the Superfinals. Coming out of here, a few different routes as we get into this pair of block trade gates, then 3 DCL gates, 1, 2 and 3, through this Fox here, and we head to the Lax Tunnel after we're going around that pylon. Danube here just pushing for second, but he's still got Neon to pass. Killian's the one out in front. Here he is, weaving his way around the waffle. Then there's these gates here, split us over this one, and that's where Sally 1 pushed past the lead in the previous race. This is where, again, Yayu was too high on the second part of it, so everybody flying it a little bit better in this race, clearly learning from what their teammates did in race number 1. Out through the A2RL gate goes Danube, who's in the lead. It's Neon in second. Killian has dropped to 10th or so. He's down in third, and Platon Air is just a little bit further behind in fourth, but by no means too far away to have something to say about this outcome. Killian and Neon back in 1 and 2, although the other way round to how they were through the Lax Tunnel. Danube about a quarter of a second behind Killian, who's just about maybe a 10th or so behind Neon. This is our leader now. He's ducking through the 3 arches here. Left hand and drop under that hurdle and then stay under the second one and push on as Killian is trying to do through the waffle gate here past the snowman. Glad to see nobody's hit that yet. And now we go for a run to the finish. Is it Danube or is it Neon? Oh, look at Danube. Can't believe he just missed out by 0.08 of a second, and Killian for Cyclone Racing was only 1/10 and 1,000ths behind him. Now it's the DCL Big Heat. All 8 pilots race. There's 4 points for the winner here, then 3, then 2, then 1, and we'll see which of these 2 teams gets the first win in the Superfinals when we add up the points afterwards. So all 8 drones going through the castle. We're on board with Neon, who Sally 1 is in front of, and they were so close. It's barely any thousandths at all. Nothing for a moment there as they were absolutely in line. That is something I don't think we've ever seen in the DCL. Now, how is it going to move apart from that point onwards? Well, Sally 1 is still out in the lead, but he's the only one in the scoring position at the moment, as the other 3 in the top 4, they're all Cyclone, and it's Neon and Yayu and Killian in different arrangements. Look at the beautiful corkscrewing there through that waffle gate by so many of our pilots. They're on to lap number 2 already. Sally 1, about 1300ths of a second ahead of Neon. Yayu 3rd, and then Killian and Red Sheep are switching around. Red Sheep was just for a moment a second STT pilot into the top 4, but Killian's staying ahead of him just for now. Sally 1 just ahead of the rest of them. Now Neon and Yayu trying to close that gap on him. This is better flying from Yayu than we saw in the first one. Into the waffle gate. Sally 1 goes and threads ahead of Neon. It's still now 1400ths of a second, and it's going to be more as Neon has hit that gate hard and is rattling around afterwards and dropping out of the top 4. His Cyclone teammates Yayu and Killian step up, and Red Sheep finds himself in a scoring position now too. Sally 1 into the castle on lap number 3. That's Yayu's look as he power loops his way out through the tunnels. The split S on the second one. Now we go through this block trade gate and double back. Then through 1, 2 and 3. DCL gates, the Fox here tunnel. See Sally 1 still ahead of Yayu by over quarter of a second. Killian dropping a little bit further behind Yayu in 3rd. Red Sheep still hanging on to 4th. Neon, who was very much in the battle and for a moment or two in the lead. He's not even in the top 4 right now. Yayu got to catch Sally 1. Not much of this race left to do it in. You can see Yayu really wants to do it. He's taking bolder moves. Sally 1's just a little more direct, and that means Sally 1's going through the final gate, and Yayu is pushing him, but Sally 1 gets a win. Then it's Yayu, Killian, and Red Sheep completes the scorers. Look how disappointed Yayu is in the top. He's furious with himself, as that is Cyclone losing to SDT in the first matchup of the day, and they have never lost to SDT this entire year. More than that, the finals of Split 1 and Split 2 were Cyclone against STT, and Cyclone won both of those. The Superfinals begin with STT getting a win, albeit by the tiniest of margins. Next matchup, our other 2 teams, Raiden Racing against Quad Force 1. We'll kick this off with the return of Halo Walker alongside Valprim against QTFPV and Hyper. Away we go in the first race of this matchup, 2v2, then the other 2v2 and the big heat to follow. Valprim and Halo Walker side by side coming out of the castle with the 2 pilots QTFPV and Hyper for Quad Force 1. Just behind them, QTFPV already slipping half a second behind the other 3. This is Halo Walker's view as he chases Valprim. Valprim's been phenomenal, the highest scoring pilot out of everybody on Raiden Racing's team. Halo Walker, we haven't seen him in the DCL for some years, but he came back for the Split 3 finals. Hyper in QTFPV for Quad Force 1. Well, Hyper has been in some races. QTFPV has been throughout the Split 3 season and getting better, certainly towards the end of it as well. Here he's got a bit of catching up to do, as it's Hyper who's the only one splitting the Raiden pilots for now, and Valprim is coming out of the castle with Halo Walker past Hyper up into second on the second lap. Through the tunnels we go. Watch out for this pylon, then the right-hand turn into the Larks tunnel, and Halo Walker is over a second behind his teammate, and Hyper is only a tenth or so behind him. So, the race for second and third as they switch places. Hyper moves past Halo Walker, but nobody is getting anywhere close to Valprim's drone as he's exiting this pair now. Into the second of the waffles, which is a split S and then a climb and a split S out of it. That A2RL gate is the end of the lap, and we have one more to go before it's the run to the finish. Valprim now 2 seconds clear, absolutely smooth and untroubled. Look how even, steady and just tidy this run is. No corrections, all the lines are very nice for him. Hyper is in second, but he's got 2 seconds to catch that pilot in front, and Halo Walker is just dropping a little bit behind. Second still within his reach, but he's not there just yet, as Valprim is just threading this so nicely. There are some very long flowing sections in the World Champion track that we have today. Seems to be suiting Valprim very nicely. He's done with it. He is on his run to the finish. He's put another few tenths between himself and Hyper, who's coming in second. Then it'll be Halo Walker and QTFPV way back. There's Valprim with another win for Raiden, as he's done so many times this season. Like I say, the #1 scorer for the team in yellow. What can they do in race number 2? Well, Vicen Mayan has been the legend of the team for many years. IQ0, very well known. Shane, one of the newer pilots for Quad Force 1, and Screecher's on his return. Much like Halo Walker for Raiden, we haven't seen Screecher for quite some time, until the Split 3 finals in Abu Dhabi a few weeks ago. Vicen has hit the block trade gate, the first of the pair. That has sent him far off the line. He's recovered and flying, but he's 1.5 seconds behind everyone else. What a terrible start for Vicen Mayan. He was swinging a little bit over like he wanted to try and take a faster line across the gate, and instead he clipped just the inside of it, and that's cost him quite a lot of the battle. His teammate IQ0 is the one splitting the Quad Force 1 pilots. Currently, this is a bit of a reversal of the race we just watched. Shane out in front, then IQ0. Screecher, well over half a second, going on nearly a whole second behind IQ0. Oh, talking of which, IQ0 on a little bit of a recovery move, and Screecher nearly onto the floor. Oh, it's all gone a little bit untidy for some of these pilots in the chase, and Vicen moves past Screecher now, up into third. Yes, he was very wild on his descent through the castle after the rocket climb at the top and then the dive gate afterwards. So Screecher down in fourth and with a big amount to do. IQ0, in fact, has been passed by his teammate Vicen, who's back on the charge, and this is when long-term DCL fans start to get on the edges of their seats, because Vicen is known for catching at the last, not even second, and surprising pilots right at the death of a race, and he is gaining all the time on Shane. With 1 lap to go, is he going to do one of his legendary finishes? Well, Shane is flying well through the block trade pair, and Vicen has got through those, unlike how he did on the first lap. This is his view. He's gained another half a second on Shane. He's catching him all the time, but it's not a very long lap, and he's going to have to be very technical here. Through the waffle, Shane has done very well there. Shane split S-ing, and then the left-hand turn and duck under the arches. That gap, it's got smaller. Vicen is closing it all the time. It's now less than a second and crumbling. Oh, but no, Vicen! And he's hit that waffle, and the chase from him is over. I don't know if he'd have caught Shane. There wasn't a lot of distance left. He hasn't managed to get him there. In fact, he's third behind his teammate IQ0. Shane out in front, Screecher at the back, cancelling each other out. That'll be 5 points to each team. So we'll do the DCL Big Heat, where the score is currently 11 points for Raiden and 9 for Quad Force 1. This is another one of those one-sided histories. In the entirety of the 2024 season, Quad Force 1 have never beaten Raiden. Can they outscore them in this big heat, get a win over them in the Superfinal, and break that history? Well, Shane is leading, but the other pilots, they're not in the top 4, but you have to realise at this stage there's only half a second between 7 of the pilots. Unfortunately, the 8th is QTFEV, who's a long way behind. Some bad starts for him. Shane carrying on in the front. Behind him, oh look, is Vicen Mayan, who wants to get him this time. Valprim, he's there looking for another win as well. IQ0, don't ever forget about Gabe. And then we have Hyper and Screecher just outside. This is Vicen Mayan and Valprim and Shane all through the castle at the same time. There they are, the 3 best pilots in this race. Weaving their way out through the DCL gates. Sees Valprim push up past Shane, get a 0.3 of a second lead in front of him. We go on board with Shane for Quad Force 1. Through that left-hand duck, then into the waffle. Split S, turn right, turn left, corkscrew your way out of there. Split S over this gate, a left-hand turn, make it nice and tight. That's what Valprim does. And he's got another 0.1 of a second between him and the challenge from Shane. Now we swing around for the second waffle. You split S through the middle pair, not the edges this time. And then sort of corkscrew your way out of the remaining gates. 1 lap to go. Here comes the castle. We're on board with Shane, doing the power loop after rocketing up through the centre and then ducking down to come through the tunnels. He's still 0.4 of a second behind Valprim, and Vicen Mayan about a 1/10 or so behind Shane, ready to take that extra point you get for coming second over third. Valprim wants the 4 for the lead. Shane scoring 3 at the moment. Then Vicen and IQ will pick up 2 points and 1 respectively. That'll give Raiden all the points they need to stay ahead of Quad Force 1 and get a win over them in our round robin here at the Superfinal. Valprim leading nicely. Good job from Shane, staying with him. The gap's not getting smaller, but he's staying ahead of the other Raiden pilots, and in fact, they've let that chase go a little bit. So there it is, Valprim, then Shane. Vicen and IQ0 are your finishers in the scoring positions. Just under 0.8 of a second between the top 3, but worrying perhaps for Quad Force 1 to see Hyper and then Screecher quite a few seconds behind the win. That's Raiden Racing. Overall, they're going to take this first matchup for themselves, 18 points to 12 over Quad Force 1, so they start off with a win just like Cyclone did earlier. Now in the round robin, let's put Quad Force 1 against STT together. These are the teams who've lost their first matchup today. We'll have Hyper and QTFEV against Sally 1 and Red Sheep. Sally 1 won both of his races for STT in the opening matchup, so that's a worry for Quad Force 1 as they weren't keeping up just now. Let's see what they can do against STT. And this is another interesting matchup because Quad Force 1 have always lost to STT except for the last time that they met. And they had been getting fractionally closer race by race. They're going to have to do something pretty impressive here, I think, as Sally 1 is clearly enjoying his flight around this track, as is young Red Sheep. They're both ahead of Hyper. QTFPV, again, I don't know what it is about his start on this track here in Lax, but he loses a lot of time very early on lap number 1. He's already 4 seconds behind, maybe more. There's the power loop for the drones as they go through the castle on lap number 2. Sally 1, Red Sheep, then Hyper, and there's about half a second between Red Sheep and the pilot in front, his teammate Sally 1, and about half a second behind him before the Quad Force 1 pilot Hyper. Now let's take a look at Sally 1 as he's into the first waffle and corkscrewing his way out of that very tightly. Split S here, then a left-hand turn, then 3 arches to duck under as Red Sheep is doing as well. Hard turn around that pylon, stay low to go underneath both of the hurdles. Split S through the middle of this waffle and then corkscrew your way out of it. Watch out for the snowman. It's going on to lap number 3 already. This race is not hanging around. Sally 1's a little ahead of Red Sheep, a bit more than he was, as I think Red Sheep has moved a little bit backwards between the two pilots. He's closer to Hyper in third than he is Sally 1 in first, but not close enough maybe for Hyper to do anything very sudden about it. Red Sheep's got to keep it together though. He's getting a little bit dangerously close to Hyper now. Sally 1 not making any mistakes. Clearly, a lot of our pilots are really getting to grips with this track. Look how quick Red Sheep is. It looks much faster than Sally 1. That's because he's flying a little more dangerously. There's a few more moves in every one of these turns as he's trying to adjust here and there, but he's managed to stay behind Sally 1 and in front of Hyper, mainly because Hyper has lost a whole load of time. He was gaining on Red Sheep in third. He ends up quite a long way behind both of the STT pilots. QTFPV 5 seconds behind as well. This could be a bit faster though for Quad Force 1 as Shane has shown how good he is around this track, and Screecher, brilliant pilot out of the US. Like I say, we haven't seen much of him in the DCL recently. He was good in the Split 3 finals. Can he get back into his best form in the simulator? Well, he's in second here, half a second behind Shane, early in lap number 1. Danube and Platt on air. Quite a long way behind already. That's a disappointing start for the two pilots from STT. Danube has been with the team longer than everybody ever since it became a permanent team in the Drone Champions League. Platt on air joined very recently along with Red Sheep, and those two brothers are doing such a good job of cheering each other on. Platt on air has gained a little bit from how far behind he was, and in fact they both moved up past Screecher. By both, I mean him and his teammate Danube, and Danube is actually fancying this lead as well. He's very close to Shane, just a little bit of time lost, maybe a tenth or so in the castle as he doubled back in the split S, and it was just a little bit hesitant. Now he's pursuing Shane. They're through the Lax Tunnel. Got to double back and duck under here and then into this waffle, and Shane is caught twice. Shane has been stopped in his tracks. He hit one of the verticals, then almost parked it on the horizontal bar between all of the gates. Platt on air has passed him as well. SDT go, both of them, past Shane into the top two positions, and that is going to really undo what Shane had managed to be flying with throughout the race so far. Shane now got to catch them both, got to show a bit of the aggression that he can do in a chasing position rather than the smooth flying he can do when he's out in front. He's in a very similar position to Screecher, as you can see there, the two of them very close, but a long way behind the two green drones and STTs, Danube and Platt on air. Well, there's a big gap between the two of those. Screecher is trying to get away from Shane and try and charge towards the STT pilots, but I don't see either of the Quad Force 1 blue drones really troubling the green ones before we get to the end of this race, and there's only a few turns left, and STT are into the second of the waffles, and here's the run to the finish. It will be Danube, and then Platt on air going 1 and 2. Shane's actually hit the finish gate on the side but not flown into it. He's had to respawn, go back a whole gate, and in fact he's hit the finish gate on his second run at it, eventually finds his way in. He was in the lead for so much of that race, he ends up 9 seconds behind the leader in fourth. That will really hurt, but you got to push that aside or use it to fuel your fury in the DCL Big Heat. You got to come back again right away. Good start by everybody. Into the castle. Climb straight up and power loop out of there. Danube's just clipped the top of it. That's just slowed him a little bit, although he's managed to come down into 6th place. Platt on air. He's hit the first of the block tray gates. You see him spinning sideways and well out of line. Shane, such a good pilot on this track. Definitely the best pilot for Quad Force 1 on this track. He's down in 7th. He's about 3.5 or 4 seconds behind the lead. That belongs to Sally 1. He is going to absolutely hate this. Maybe that problem he had at the end of his previous race is just still playing on his mind, and it's affected his performance. He's been passed by Platt on air, and Shane is down in last place. Sally 1 fighting a line that's nice and tidy at the front. Red Sheep fighting his own line. Just a few adjustments making there, but he's in second again. And Danube, he's moved up into third. Just there, although he's just lost that again to Screecher, who's having the best run on this track so far that we've seen from him. He's challenging Danube. He's back in fourth now. It's all STT in the top 3 positions, but Screecher less than a tenth of a second between him and Danube. Ooh, Sally 1 flying that very tightly, very dangerously, and Danube's had some problems. He's gone from 3rd to 5th. Screecher and now Hyper. They're up into the 3rd and 4th place, the scoring positions, but nowhere near what Quad Force 1 need if they want to try and turn this series around against SDT. They really need 1st and 2nd and more than that. And that is looking like a stretch way too far. Even if they could catch Sally 1 and Red Sheep, where is the other points going to come from? Well, all of the Quad Force 1 pilots are together, but they're in 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th, although Screecher just moves past Danube and just makes that a little untidier. Now Screecher leading the way for Quad Force 1. Danube back in front of him, down in 3rd. Sally 1, untroubled, out in front. 2 seconds between him and Red Sheep. It was 1 and maybe a half earlier on, and now Red Sheep is flying nicely, and it is getting a little smoother for him, which is good to see as he's developing race by race. But Sally 1 just coasts to another win. Then Red Sheep and Danube. Hyper's the only one at Quad Force 1 to pick up any points, and that's just 1. They didn't get clean swept by SDT, but it was everything else Propsicle is the quickest pilot for Quad Force 1, but he's not racing for them today, and Hyper's usually the second place pilot behind him. He's going to have to step up. STT, that's the best performance we've seen so far today. 23 points to 7, what a win. Talking of winners, let's take the two teams who won their opening matchups and see what happens when they face each other. We'll have Halo Walker and Valprim for Raiden, Yayu and J-Box for Cyclone. Off we go. There's J-Box's view of the other three drones into the power loop. Now we go to Valprim, who's in the front, hasn't got anybody in his vision. He's so clean, straight to the front, and he does tend to stay there. Well, now he's not. Yayu is going to give him the battle this time after his fury with himself earlier on. He's now racing and in the lead, and Valprim less than a tenth of a second behind him, very close as they go into the waffle gate here. Valprim very nice through there. He's above Yayu. Can't see Yayu right now, but he is still just there as he moves now across from the right-hand side. And Yayu is in front, square and centre in front of Valprim as they come out through the waffle here. Yayu above Valprim. Valprim will see him again now as they go on to lap number 2. We're on board with Valprim. Where's Yayu? He's thinking, is there going to be a purple drone flashing around him? There it is. He's back in front. Oh, this is the sort of action we want to see. Through the block trade duo and then out through the DCL gates after that. Yayu still in front of Valprim. And we've seen how clean Valprim can fly. We haven't seen the best of Yayu today until now. And he's just now seeing Valprim alongside him, still some more, and just in front, this is Yayu. Valprim swings across him like Sully 1 did in the earlier race, only Yayu's learned that he lost some time on that turn before, and he's flying it a lot tighter since he's into the waffle, higher up, going in, carrying more speed and flying out of it very nicely, but he's lost a couple of tenths. It's now nearly 4 tenths between him and Raiden's pilot Valprim, out in front of him onto the third lap. J-Box is behind Yayu in third, and Halo Walker out of the picture down in fourth. Yayu chasing Valprim. They snake their way under the bridges. There's the first. Here comes the second through the Lax tunnel. And now we do this left-hand drop under the banner, and they both make that. And now Yayu's got to catch him, and he's going a little bit right, whereas Valprim's going left to turn across that gate. Well, they both made it work, but I think Valprim's line was a bit quicker. And now Yayu is bouncing on the ice and on the snowboarding rails. And the chase from him is over. J-Box might even pass him for second. That's just Cyclone pilot swapping places. Valprim's got another win. Yayu hangs on to the second with J-Box behind him. Here comes Halo Walker for Raiden. The challenge was good from Yayu. It was a lot closer throughout. But he got caught out by the same set of obstacles with the pair of the tunnels around the kicker ramps. Now Victories and IQ0 have Killian and Neon, and it is, after that first race, 5 points all. Here we go into the castle. There's the power loop. IQ0 leads us out past the Christmas tree towards these 3 ramps into the block trade duo. Then 1 and 2 and 3. This is good from IQ0. That's a good solid start. But look, it's absolutely the same with everybody else. They're all within a tenth of a second. This is the best start we've seen from any of our groups. We go through the waffle and all 4 of the pilots are out of that. Now there's less than 4 tenths between them all, so definitely the best of the first laps in today's competition. Neon has swapped to the front and IQ0 has swapped all the way to the back. That's not what he wants. He's now moving past Killian, trying to stay with his teammate Vicen Mayan, but they need to get in front of Neon, who they can see leading them into the power loop on lap number 2. Neon towards the block trade duo. Then it's Vicen Mayan. IQ0 right with him, and Killian is a long way behind. Kylian Rousseau from France, who joined Cyclone Racing for Split 3, didn't make the regular season but was great for them and the fastest pilot of everybody who came to our Split 3 finals in Abu Dhabi. He is out of this picture. Neon, though, his teammate, focused, as you can see in the top right of your screen, staying ahead of the 2 pilots from Raiden, but it's about a quarter of a second, and there's another lap to go, and IQ0 and Vicen Mayan, not many pilots want to have them chasing them. Neon leads them through the power loop. IQ0 pushing hard. Vicen not quite as tight in some of this, but still not far behind. They snake their way through the DCL gates. Killian absolutely nowhere to be seen for Cyclone. It's got to be Neon. And now Raiden are pursuing him. Here's the drop underneath there. You duck under, and Neon is still doing it, but the gap has halved. It's now less than a tenth of a second. IQ0 just out of it fractionally slower. Neon got a push. Vicen Mayan is up past IQ0, and there's not much time left, and it's less than a tenth for all 3 of these pilots as they weave their way around the final waffle. Is it going to happen for Neon, or are Raiden going to steal it from him? Here's the run to the finish now, and it is Neon hanging on. And look at the relief and smile on Neon's face. Rightly so. He was under so much pressure and he kept it together. Unfortunately, Killian coming down in 4th place. Again, they cancel each other out. That race is just 5 points all. So it's going to be settled in the DCL Big Heat. 10 points to each of these teams. Wow, we're really seeing pilots starting to come alive, although other pilots, really maybe finding that this long flowing track, perhaps they prefer more technical obstacles, and they haven't just got the kind of flow to join some of this together. This is a solid start though. Look at this, 4/10 between all 8 pilots this time. The Duck under the banner there. Yayu, Valprim, Neon, IQ0, your top 4. Killian and Vicen Mayan, they're just outside it. What great pilots are in this race. Yayu pushing ahead of Valprim. Oh no, he's got caught out here again. Previously, it's been on the exit side, on the second gap between the ramps. This time it was on the entry. Yayu down at the back. Oh, this is a really, really bad sign for Cyclone, as he has been their best pilot. There's Killian getting caught on the exit of the power loop too. Oh, Yayu's been so important for the team, scored so many points, been at the top of our pilot leaderboard for individual points scored. If he can't make it work around here, that is a problem for Cyclone. Neon in 2nd. Valprim's the one ahead of him. Of course it's Valprim. He hasn't lost a race yet. 3 wins for 3 today. And looks unstoppable. It's just no problems, no hesitations, no adjustments. It's just threading one to the next, to the next, to the next, as smooth as you like. Neon gonna have to be a bit more daring, I think, if you're gonna try and catch a pilot flying as cleanly as Valprim. Can he be beaten? There's the route through the gates and under the tunnels, and Valprim ahead of Neon still. IQ0, Vicen Mayada, the other one's into the points. And remember, it's 10 points all before this big heat, so this is going to settle it. If you're Cyclone right now, you're seeing Raiden take the lion's share, not just the win. And in fact, prior to today's Super Final, Cyclone had only lost 1 race in the entirety of 2024, and that was the first race they had of the year to Raiden, and they've lost to Raiden here, and they lost to STT earlier on. What is going on for Cyclone? Raiden in strong form with Valprim seemingly unstoppable. IQ0 and Vicen Mayan staying ahead of the other pilots from Cyclone. A big win for Raiden here. They've been in Cyclone's shadow throughout the year, but now they beat them 17 points to 13 after those first 2 races cancelled each other out. That's 2 wins for Raiden and 2 losses for Cyclone. So now when Cyclone go against Quad Force 1, they've got to start turning this around. Yayu and J-Box, QTFPV and Hyper. For these 2 teams, it's their last match in the Super Finals round robin, and both of these teams have lost their first 2 matchups, so they really, really want to try and beat each other now. Yayu, then Hyper, J-Box, and then QTFPV, who's having another problematic first lap. If you look at him in the back there, he's having to go back and complete one of the gates again, so this is the worst one he's had. He's really not turning up for his team at all. Hyper, though, is this the time that he gets the form we know he's got? Or is this track just going to continue to give him problems? Now that he's in 2nd, we'll get a better look at him as he's chasing Yayu, and Yayu goes down there again! This time it wasn't the hurdle, this time it was the side wall on the exit. Right, Hyper, you got to run now. You're ahead of Yayu and you get very few chances to stay ahead of Swanversmissen. What an amazing pilot he is. He is wanting that lead. He's got that lead back. Hyper, you've already lost it to him. Less than 1/10 of a second for Hyper to get it back. But this is Yayu. He doesn't see Quad Force 1's blue drones in front of him anymore. Ooh, Hyper just zooms past the back of him. Maybe just slightly overshot the turn coming in. Here's his view. There's Yayu. For the taking, perhaps, for Hyper. Mason Lively out of the US. Flying well for Quad Force 1. Maybe now starting to really learn and get this track dialed in. Yayu showing him the way around. 1 more lap to go. Behind these 2, there's J-Box just across the bottom of your picture. 5 seconds behind, and QTFPV is never going to turn up in this battle. In fact, they might even get close to lapping him. QTFPV is down in 4th. His teammate Hyper is pushing for the lead. Yeah, you still got that through the tunnels. Here's the Duck underneath. That one's not the one that trips up Yayu. It's coming up. The waffle, good for both of them. Yayu is well ahead of Hyper coming out of that, though. He's found a lot of time as Hyper was very slow, but Yayu is now going to take it perhaps a little bit slower to make that safely, and he does. And he's through the waffle and exiting that to the finish. You won't catch him now. It's a straight line run unless he misses the finish gate, but he doesn't do that. Hyper will come in second, and then J-Bots and QTFPV will be third and fourth behind them. Ooh, dangerous flying, though. Yayu with a win, 2.2 seconds ahead of Hyper. J-Box in third, so it's not a 5 points all series. Instead, Cyclone take that one 6-4. And now Killian and Neon against Screecher and Shane. Oh, it's a really good start for Screecher, and he's got the lead, and he's hit the underside of the castle. Oh, Screecher climbed too soon into the power loop, and that has just gone from a brilliant start to way too much to do. Oh, that is basically over for Screecher. So it's down to Shane, isn't it? Half a second behind the two pilots from Cyclone. And prior to that last race won by Yayu, Neon was the only one who'd won any races for Cyclone, and he'd won 2 of them. Shane is the only one who's won any races for Quad Force 1. Guess what? He's won 2 of them. Neon's out in the front of this one. Between him and the leading pilot for Quad Force 1, well, Killian Rousseau, legend in international drone racing. Previously in the DCL, helping his team win World Championship titles. Then left the DCL for a short while, but we're so pleased to have him back in the Drone Champions League. And he is on board here, 0.05 of a second behind his teammate Neon. Shane is about 0.4 behind Neon. So Killian between the two of them still. Not being troubled by Shane just yet, but Shane is very close now. Here it comes. Neon out in front. Killian has got Shane in front of him as well. How did Shane get through there? What amazing flying. And Shane's gone to the lead. Oh, it's on now. Shane in lap number 3. Oh, no. It's on and it's off again. And Shane, you're only 2.5 seconds behind, but it's just fallen apart. He's now 10 seconds behind. 11, 12... Ah, the race is gone from him. The fight is gone out of him as well. He turned, I think, too early out of the top of the power loop. Hit the inside of it as a result. Came out of it, flew into the next part of the split S, but it was untidy. And I think from that point on, he was just rattled and gave up. Interestingly, during all that chaos, Killian slipped past Neon in the castle as well. So Killian is leading and going to get his first win just ahead of Neon. And here comes Shane, and Shane, what are you doing? Yep, he's just annoyed with the whole thing. So congratulations, Killian getting his first win in the Superfinals ahead of Neon, who was ahead of Shane. Screecher was behind Shane despite all of that chaos. Now for the DCL Big Heat. Well, this will tell us what kind of mindset Quad Force 1 have. Today is the World Championship decider. They were runners-up in that championship in 2023. They have got to get this track figured out now. Yayu is rattling around inside the castle. He's in last place. Everybody else within just about a second. And the leader, it's Neon. Shane! He's fighting again. He's already in second. Behind him, Killian and J-Box. All these names coming back and back again. Then we've got Screecher, QTFPV and Hyper. And I'm not sure we'll see much of Yayu, although I suspect Hyper and QTFPV, he might well catch them for their places. But I don't think he's going to be getting anywhere near the 1 point you can get for fourth. Never mind, though. His teammates are in good positions. And to be fair, Yayu, he's always ready to surprise me as well. We're on to lap number 2 with Shane out in front. Neon, Killian, J-Box. They don't need to beat Shane here. They've got enough points. They just got to stop Quad Force 1 scoring a lot of them. This is an old strategy that you sometimes see in DCL races by a team thinking, you know what, we don't need the win. We just need to take most of the points here and stop the other team scoring everything they need. Is that what Cyclone are doing, or is Shane just finding his way around and being pretty much uncatchable? Well, I've got to say, Neon's giving him a good go. It's just over 1/4 second. The gap he's got to catch. Into the middle part of this waffle. Out of that goes Shane, like he's never crashed or had any problems in his life. He's through A2RL and onto lap number 3. Neon there with Killian just a little bit further back. Out of that with no problems. Shane, he can do it again. This is really impressive after how much that last race clearly rattled him and annoyed and frustrated him. Now he's out in front, and this is getting to the dangerous area where we've had a few pilots have some problems. Shane going left here before turning right. I like that. I reckon that's the better line through those gates, and I'm surprised other pilots haven't been trying it. Duck under these hurdles. He does. Neon is running out of time to catch Shane for that win. Shane has got this one done. That is a brilliant competitive mindset. That is a great way to come back from all the problems he had. But his teammates, well, there's QTFPV in 6th. Hyper is 5th. Yeah, you did manage to get in front of Screecher. Oh, no, he hasn't. No, Yayu has finished behind Screecher after he did miss the finish. I said it's very rare, but he occasionally does. Well, you've just seen a rare thing. Shane at the front of that. Not enough for Quad Force 1. Cyclone win that series, 19 points to 11. But that is the only match they're going to win in the group stage today. Raiden Racing against Spain Drone Team. These teams have both won both of their matches. They've both beaten Cyclone, they've both beaten Quad Force 1. So, who's going to be top of our round robin group? This is going to settle it. Valprim and Halo Walker against Sally 1 and Red Sheep. Everybody out of the castle. Half a second between Halo Walker and the other 3 drones in front of him. And Valprim is the leading one of those, although Sally 1 just a little wider than him, just taking a different route. Pilots using speed at different times in different turns. Good to see the variation. I like this. Valprim's gone left. Goes through that gate. Makes it very tight to go through it on an angle, but if you can do it, you are then already heading towards the next gate, and I think that's quicker. Sally 1 flying very tightly as well and challenging Valprim throughout the waffle, and we're on to lap number 2. And that is a tight race at the front with only 1/100th of a second between them. And Red Sheep is up there too. There's Sally 1. There's Valprim just nudging into the corner of his screen and now a bit more visible right in front of you. Valprim and Sally 1. Who's going to crack first? They have both won 4 races out of 4. They are the leading competitors in the Superfinal at the moment. 4 wins out of 4 for Valprim, 4 wins out of 4 for Sally 1. Somebody's going to be happy here. Somebody's going to have their record broken. It doesn't look like Red Sheep or Halo Walker are going to be getting that win, although don't count Red Sheep out. But 1 lap to go. Valprim moves past Sally 1 at the start of lap number 3. There's Sally 1's look through the power loop. Oh, that was so tight. It looked like he crashed it and rolled it, but that was all intentional to make it as tight as possible. And yet Valprim did the same. Oh, there's that move again. Sally 1, that area where he goes a little bit wider, gives Valprim just the chance to go a little bit in front of him, and Sally 1 is flying that so tightly, and he's taking the really tight oblique angle like Valprim does there as well. Of course these pilots are chasing each other. Of course they're taking the same lines as their routes around here get refined again and again. But there was one turn earlier where Valprim moved into the lead after Sally 1 was wide, and that's the difference. And that's really all it is. Valprim goes 5 wins from 5, and Sally 1 did everything but that. Wow. Wow, what competitors they are. Now, Vicen Mayan and IQ0, can you do anything like that? And Danube and Platon Air, what have you got? Does anybody get caught in the castle on their first run through it this time? No! We're all cleanly out the other side with both of the Raiden pilots in front of both of SDT. Now, Vicen Mayan and Danube have had exactly the same number of heats in 2024 up until the start of today, and Vicen has managed to score 38 more points in that same number of races than Danube has done. Over the last few years, Danube has dropped off a little bit for STT, and Silvio came in and became their captain. Vicen Mayan, on the other hand, has had a real rise in performance and reputation as he's been so great in the DCL. Gotta say, Danube, he's putting in a much stronger performance so far today, and I feel like Vicen isn't at his best around this track as Danube just moves past him on the start of lap number 2. Quick, aggressive flying from these two pilots. Vicen just back in front of Danube. IQ0 third, Platon Air about half a second behind in 4th. Now, as we come out of this waffle, let's see the routes that the pilots want to take. Vicen goes left, Danube goes right. And then you end up doing this left-hand spiral to get through that split S. Depends on your technique in the turns. Danube's hit the railing, IQ0's hit the wall. That obstacle that has caused Yayu and some others so many problems. Well, Danube has gone from second to third, and IQ0 is out on the snow and nowhere near the action, and Vicen is going to have to do what he does for Raiden, which is win races when he's out in front, although he quite likes winning them when he wasn't in the front too. Platonaire is up into second, but can he gain on Vicen? The 1.5 seconds between them is surely too much. Here's Platonaire into the waffle. That is nicely flown by the young pilot for STT. Now he's out through the arches. This is good flying from him, but as you can see, Vicen is just extending that lead all the time. Platonaire's not doing anything wrong. Vicen is just a bit faster everywhere. Here's his run to the finish. Platonaire will come in second. That's his second place of today. Danube's got the third. IQ0 is limping home now. That's why I always say in drone racing, never give up, as you don't know what's going to happen to your competitors in the race. Platonaire ends up going from fourth to second with some pretty solid, consistent flying. Can he get his first win? Or who else is going to take it? It's the big heat, the last race of our Superfinals group stage round robin. All 8 pilots nicely lighting up the castle. 1/4 second, barely that between all 8 of them, as we're now around the Christmas tree and attacking out over the ice. Sally 1 with Valprim battling for the lead. Then all of Raiden and all the rest of STT. Can Sally 1 get a win here, or is Valprim going to make it 6 from 6? Sally 1 would love to beat Valprim, having just been beaten by him in the last race. He's in the front right now. Valprim second, then IQ0, and then Red Sheep just moves past Vicen Mayan. But Vicen goes from fourth to second and down to third, as everybody was so tight in the waffle. We're on to lap number 2. Valprim's up and out and through the power loop. So is Vicen in second, IQ0 in third. Raiden in dominant form here. Halo Walker's a pilot, as we said at the beginning, hasn't been seen in the DCL for some time. I'm surprised, if I'm honest, to see him in the Superfinals, as they have so many really good pilots who've been racing in more of the season and more of the year, in fact, than Halo Walker has. But good to see him back in the DCL. He's clearly not quite as good around this track as the other pilots in yellow. Out of the waffle, Valprim, and again Vicen. Then Sally 1 and Red Sheep. Now let's remember that both of the 2 previous races in this series went 5 all, so it's 10 points to each team. The big heat is the one that's going to settle this. We're underneath the first of the 2 tunnels. There's the Foxhill one, here comes the Lax tunnel. And Sally 1 with a little bit to do to catch Vicen Mayan, but only a 10th or so. A lot more to do to try and take the lead from Valprim, but he can definitely give Vicen something to think about. Although drones in opposite directions there made that all look a little bit more dangerous than it was. Valprim's into the waffle. Vicen is being attacked by Sally 1. Red Sheep wants to get him as well, but it's too much for Red Sheep to do. But Sally 1 has got in front of Vicen for second. Vicen Mayan third. Red Sheep does take fourth. Another point scoring position for him. And Valprim gets the better of Sally 1 again. In fact, that is 6 wins out of 6. Congratulations to Valprim winning every race he's been in so far. And Raiden getting 3 wins out of 3. This one by this tiny margin, 16 points to 14 over STT. With that, they've got 3 wins out of 3. STT got 2. Cyclone, surprisingly, just the 1 win, and Quad Force 1 didn't get any. So the 4 teams line up like this, which means Raiden versus STT. The winner of this is going straight to the grand final. And from this stage on, every matchup has 5 races. We're going to do 2v2s, beginning with Halo Walker and Valprim against Sally 1 and Red Sheep. So we're underway into the castle, and out we come with Valprim and Red Sheep. Nice and tight between each other. Halo Walker in the scrap 2 with Sally 1. This would be a good showing from Halo Walker if he can keep in this battle with the other 3 pilots, as he's been left behind during the group stage. But keeping with them here, Red Sheep battling alongside Sally 1, trying to get the lead from this pilot, Valprim, as he ducks under the 3 arches and tries to maintain his perfect record. Into the middle of this waffle, right-hand turn, a corkscrew out of it. Everybody here. 1 second between all 4 pilots. Valprim at the front, Halo Walker at the back, but much closer than he has been in previous battles, so a good chance for Raiden to mix things up amongst the STT pilots. this may not be as simple as a 5 points all finish. Now we go underneath the first of the tunnels. The Foxier one into the Lax tunnel. Sully one around the pylon, still trying to chase Valprim down. Red Sheep has lost 0.2 of a second, so he's just slipped a little bit back into third. And here's Valprim going for the split S from the left-hand side. Then the turn and obliquely through the gate for that angle, which seems to work well for him. Sully one, though, is brilliant in those tunnels, as we saw him race one at the start of the Super Final. And that's how he's just squeezed past Valprim into the lead as they go into the castle for the third time in this round. Valprim now in second, and Halo Walker moved up into third because Red Sheep has lost a couple of seconds. A mistake or a problem for him has lost him some time. He is all over the back of Halo Walker trying to get that third place, though. That's why I say never give up, and he never does. Sully one's the first into the first of the waffles on lap number 3. Valprim 0.1 of a second behind him. Sully one taking the oblique angle, and here's the part he's really good at. Snug around the pylon, tight against the ice on both of the slopes and the exit. He's put another 10th and maybe 2 between himself and Valprim, although Valprim closed it on that last turn, and the run to the finish goes Sully one and Valprim, then Halo Walker. Red Sheep will come in 4th. Sully one gets a little bit of revenge from earlier on when Valprim beat him, so that little bit of rivalry between them is going to carry on and on. Now let's see the other pilots. Vicen Mayan and IQ0 against Danube and Platon Air. So this is the second of the 2v2s, but now that we're into this elimination stage, there will be more 2v2s with different mixes of pilots. So after this, these pairings are going to change around a bit. Much like it's happening at the front of this race. IQ0 and Vicen Mayan, just 1 and 2, mixing it back and forth. Then it's Danube and Platon Air, not far behind at all and ready to pounce. And IQ0 stays just ahead of Vicen. Vicen just moves past him. Both of them taking similar but slightly different routes into that split S. And Vicen, first one of them all into this pair of the dives and the ducking between the snowboarding ramps. And Danube gets into the mix there, and Platon Air is ready to join in. On to lap number 2. Now it's Raiden STT. Vicen will be hanging on to that lead, and Danube will try and take it from him. A 10th maybe between these two pilots, then a 10th to 3rd and a 10th to 4th. So everybody could be ready to move up and try and take the lead if anything happens ahead of them, so the pressure mounts on all 4 of these pilots. Vicen goes wider to the left. I like this, but then he turns and goes very sort of perpendicularly through that gate rather than really tightly trying to fly horizontally through it as he goes past. I feel there's some improvements to make on that particular part, but we are talking about fractions, but that's what it comes down to in drone racing, particularly when you're at the sharp end of the year, the World Championship battle. That's what we're doing today. Now Vicen just bumps his way through the block trade gate, which means he's lost the 2nd place. He was already behind Danube, now he's behind Platon Air as well. 1/10 of a second is all he's got to do to get back into that 2nd place spot. And IQ0, who was at the lead for so much at the beginning, is 8 seconds behind at the back, so Raiden are coming undone here. Danube ahead of Platon Air. Vicen really close, and now he's moving past Platon Air. Can he catch Danube as well? There's very little to do. His final turn is good, and he's alongside, and it went from 3 or 4 tenths to less than 1 at the end, but Danube celebrates as he hangs on and gets his 2nd win of the Superfinals by 75 thousandths of a second. Now let's mix things up. The pilots have to be in different pairings for races 3 and 4. Valprim and IQ0 this time with each other against Sully one and Platon Air. So Valprim ends up against Sully one again, just with different teammates in this time. And there they go. There's Valprim, Sully one, but who's that with them? IQ0 fancies getting involved, and Platon Air is the 4th pilot in this one. The 2 young brothers on STT who've been so important to them throughout 2024. Not quite in the battles at the front just yet, although Red Sheep has been close to some of them and finishing in a couple of 2nd places. Now Valprim's got the lead, and who's that? Oh, look, Sully one. 300ths of a second. No, make that 200ths of a second. No, give him the lead. Oh, give it back to Sully one or give it back to Valprim. It's just going to keep changing and changing, but it may be the other pilots, IQ0 and Platon Air then, who are the ones who really have something important to do here. This has all the makings of a series which might keep going 5-all between the teams, and in that case, it's that one difference perhaps between third and fourth, and the extra point that you get with it and the extra point that your enemy loses. That might be what makes this difference. Now, Sally1 has just put a few tenths of a second between himself and Valprim, whereas it's always been basically a few hundredths up until this part of lap number 2. So, is Sally1 just starting to settle ahead of Valprim? It's unlikely, given how well they're both flying. You wouldn't think either of them would have the lead for long, and indeed, Valprim is going for him again here. IQ0, though. There he is in third, and Platon Air is a few seconds behind. So, IQ0 needs to hang on to that third, and then with Valprim battling at the front, it's going to be, you would think, 5-all for the teams, or potentially Raiden to get this 6-4, and they need to. That would tie up the series. And that's really the small margins we've got right here at the end of 2024 in the World Championship battle, which is our super final. And Valprim is just flying that as closely as you can, but so did Sally1 through the A2RL gate, and Sally1's gonna get the win. Valprim second, there's IQ0. Platon Air comes in fourth. It's 5 points all, which means Spain Drone Team still have a 2-point lead. Great battling from everybody. Now we'll try the other pairs. Halo Walker and Vicen Mayan against Danube and Red Sheep. Away we go. Red Sheep's view. Oh, he sees everyone go ahead of him. He's gone onto the snow, out of the blocks. He'll respawn and try and catch back up with everybody else, but that's a really unfortunate start for him and for STT. Both of the Raiden pilots, they're the ones in 1 and 2. Danube third. Red Sheep a little bit more to do than perhaps we're going to see on this really fast track. So it's up to Danube to scrap with Vicen Mayan and Halo Walker, and he won't mind giving them a bit of a challenge. Vicen in the lead. Danube following him through that pair, that tricky set between the snowboarding ramps. Out of the second waffle, heading on to lap number 2. Vicen Mayan, 1600ths of a second ahead of Danube. Halo Walker about 1.5 seconds behind his teammate, so not challenging Danube for that extra point yet, but he makes his way out of the castle to the block trade duo. It's Vicen and Danube, and that gap hasn't really changed. Here's 1 and 2 of the bridges. And yes, you're not being deceived. That is Red Sheep we're now watching. I think we've had a little bit of a problem with his data. That makes me think so as well, just seeing him freeze there. I think he spent the whole time challenging around the front. He hasn't just magically teleported there or any sort of treachery like that. It's absolutely not possible. What is possible is the young 9-year-old pilot is actually coming alive on this track, and he is more than capable of it. And I think what we're watching now is what he can actually do. So, putting any technical problems that might have held up how we saw him during the first lap, we're on to lap number 3, and he is right there with Vicen Mayan and Danube. Halo Walker's lost a bit more time down in 4th. We are heading towards a 5 points all situation, but Red Sheep is trying to go from 2nd to 1st and stay there, and Vicen Mayan is one of the hardest pilots to beat at the end. Here's his view, trying to get past Red Sheep through this duo of the ramps, all so close to the pylon. The split S in, the corkscrew out. It's good for Vicen. Danube has gone a little bit past Red Sheep as well. There's their run to the finish. Vicen doesn't get distracted by any of the action around him. Danube goes 2nd with Red Sheep in 3rd. It's 5 points all after Halo Walker finishes 4th. If Vicen Mayan is just starting to find his real true skill on this track, that's scary for everybody else. The end of the series is going to be the DCL Big Heat. So this is how we'll do it. 4 2v2s and then everyone. This will settle it. It's 2 points for Spain Drone Team in the lead over Raiden Racing. The winner of this, remember, goes straight to the World Championship Grand Final. The team who loses will have to continue to fight to try and get that 2nd spot. Sally1 chasing Valprim for the lead. Sally1 makes a mistake. Hold everything. Stop right now. He's been perfect, and he's now 7th. And wait, that was Valprim just bumping through the 2nd of those gates on the inside. It's one of those lucky bumps which doesn't send you off course. How on earth, after such perfect runs from both of those pilots, have they both just made mistakes within seconds of each other, unrelated to each other? Valprim somehow still in the front as well. Vicen Mayan in second, then Danube and Platt on air. If it finishes like this, Raiden are going to go to the final. They're going to get 7 points and STT will only get 3, but we got the best part of 2 laps before we can add that up. And Danube needs to do something about this. So does Platt on air and the rest of STT. Sully one as perfect as he has been around here. I fear being 2 seconds behind, not even his perfect racing can pull him back from there. Red Sheep is all over the place in the duo of the ramps. He's now down at the back and Sully one is just outside the points. This race has turned around completely 1 lap to go and it's really a straight shootout now. For Raiden, they do have the best part of a second advantage over the quickest of the pilots from STT, and that's Danube. Aside from Sali 1, Danube is the only one who's won a race or comes second in this elimination stage. Valprim is threading, no problems there. Not put off by his earlier bump, which was on that gate, and looked a little bit of a dip afterwards, like it wasn't too clean for him, but he's still in the lead, still ahead of Vicen Mayan, and by 0.4 of a second. Now Vicen follows him. It's going to be the 1-2 for Raiden. Here it comes. Your first grand finalists are our previous world champions. Raiden Racing will go there and STT so nearly in their first ever world final. Well, they did so much right, and so much of it was tied with Raiden throughout, with 3 of the races being 5 points all. But Raiden Racing are the winner of our first match in this do-or-die set of races. They go to the grand final by the tiniest of margins. STT, they will face the winner of this matchup for the other spot in the grand final. So it'll be Cyclone against Quad Force 1. These are the teams who are 3rd and 4th after our round robin stage. We're going to begin with J-Box and Yayu against Hyper and QT FPV. Into the castle we head. So all of these are American pilots, except for Yayu, who's from France but flying for the American team of Cyclone. QTFPV having one of those starts again, which means he's really not featuring in the higher points for his team. Hyper's got it to do. Into the waffle was Yayu in front of him, but now Hyper exits a little bit quicker, and Yayu has lost 0.8 and got down into 3rd, and Hyper had the lead, and now he's 3rd. Oh, just when it was in front of him, just when he could charge on and try to stay ahead of both of the Cyclone pilots. Now he's got to catch both of them. Oh, that's an unfortunate time for him to make that crash, as surely that was a good opportunity to just go off and try and get a clean run to the finish, knowing that Yayu and J-Box are hunting you down. Still not hard to stay in front of those 2 really experienced pilots, but there goes one. J-Box crashes. Now Hyper's back into 2nd. We're in a similar position than we were about a lap ago. What can happen here? Hyper's into the waffle behind Yayu, as he was, but this time Yayu comes out of it cleanly, and Hyper's half a second behind him. J-Box about half a second behind Hyper, and they continue through this pair of ramps. Yayu being chased by Hyper, who does a big pre-turn! Too much, too early, hits the railing across the middle of the gates, had no vision of it. That's how you do a pre-turn, but he went too soon, which meant his drone didn't go far enough. And he was blind to the crash and lost 3.5 seconds as a result of it, and some more. J-Box has also lost some time on Yayu, but there's a big load of beautiful Swiss air between him and the 2 pilots of Quad Force 1, and Yayu just a little nudge there, not on the walls, but just to keep his drone where he wants it to be. It's not the cleanest we've seen, and we know that from his earlier races. I've never seen Yayu actually lashing out in frustration and anger after doing badly in a race. He knows there's a lot on the line here, hoping his team will be the world champions. He's got another win. They're on their way. J-Box has the 2nd, just ahead of Hyper. QTFPV has got a long time before he comes in, over 11 seconds behind Yayu out in the front. 7 points to 3. Not as close to start as we had in the previous series. Now Killian and Neon against Screecher and Shane. Well, in the earlier round robin stage when Cyclone played Quad Force 1, these pairs met and Killian and Neon were 7 points to 3 the winners. So Shane is at the front and really needs to stay there this time. Neon and Killian chasing him, then Screecher. Half a second between all 4. Good starts for all of these pilots. Shane in the lead. Shane, another one of the French pilots in the Drone Champions League, but he's racing for Quad Force 1. Kylian Rousseau, the best pilot in France. He's on the side of Cyclone. Shane still in the front. Screecher needing to show a little bit more of what he's made of. That's Spencer racing out of Ohio. Brilliant pilot. Really glad to have him back in the DCL. Such an important pilot in the States. He and his family do such great things in drone racing for the benefit of so many people, not just in the USA. What he needs to do here, though, is show why the team picked him for the Superfinals. He was there in the Split 3 final in Abu Dhabi. He needs to be getting towards the action in this race, as it is leaving him a little bit behind at the moment. Shane still there in the front. Neon is closer than he was. Kylian still 3 or 4 tenths behind that battle for first and second. He won't like that, but he's not a sim racer. Truly, he's more of a real-life pilot. That's how he's so famous. He can definitely compete, though. This is not easy in DCL the game, and here he is racing his way through, but in third. That's not where he wants to be. He'll just see Neon and Shane drop into the split S ahead of him. They come now to the block trade gates. Neon going a little bit differently. Kylian going exit, stage left. Hit the inside of the first block trade gate like we saw earlier. That sent him off the line. Screech a bit too far away to take advantage. Neon brilliantly turning on the inside of Shane at every part of that. So tight he even bumped on his way out of the waffle. Kept it flying. Shane's had a little bit more of a hesitation or a bump as he's over a second behind him. That turns this around. Shane now in the chase, which he wasn't until this point, and it's the worst time to be there because the finish is there for Neon. Shane comes in a second behind him. He's going to be furious again. Screecher is fourth. Kylian stayed in that third position between them. Oh, Neon made a brilliant move, turning on the inside so tightly. Shane then perhaps a little bit put off by it. Whatever happened, it was a great take from Neon, and he's up again, this time alongside Yayu. This is looking very dangerous for Quad Force 1 now. They're 6 points behind. Neon so far has 3 wins. Yayu has 2. The best Hyper has managed is a second place, and Screech's best is third. This could get away from Quad Force 1 very quickly, and this is the elimination stage now. If you lose this battle, you are out of the World Championship Superfinal. You'll be 4th place in the DCL for 2024. No shame in that. A huge achievement in the World Championship Series for drone racing teams. But Quad Force 1 were runners-up at the end of 2023. The closest they'd been to the World Championship since they started in 2018. They won't want to finish 4th this year. There are 2 more races after this one, but Cyclone is showing that they can get to grips with this track now. It's taken Yayu a bit longer than it has done on many of the other tracks we've challenged our pilots with throughout this year and in previous years that he's been with us. He's coming together now, though. Neon, great here as well. Remember, he's also got 3 wins already. Half a second behind Yayu, who definitely seems to be finding his way around this arrangement in Switzerland. Hyper, 4 seconds behind. Screecher, more than that. This one's going to be painful for Quad Force 1, as I don't think they're going to catch either of the Cyclone pilots unless a big mistake befalls either of them. And we have seen a few, but I'm feeling like it's now cleaned up and Yayu has got this figured out. Neon, in fact, is a few seconds behind, so it's not been perfectly clean for him either. We're on board with him now as he just dips through that Foxeer tunnel. Was almost a little bit too high. Is trying to stay with Yayu, but it's a big gap between them. Yayu into the waffle. This is the Yayu we know. Swan Vermissen, another French pilot racing for Cyclone. He's a previous Rookie of the Year. He's only 3 points behind Silvio from SDT in our Pilot of the Year leaderboard. And Silvio's not here for SDT. The captain of the team not racing here in the Superfinal for some reason. So Yayu getting more points like that is going to do his total no end of good. Screecher is stargazing for some reason just at that moment after he crashed. Regardless, at the front, it's Yayu, then Neon in a 1-2 again. Neon's not getting his 4th win, but Yayu is getting his 3rd. Kylian and J-Box, Shane and QTFPV, real pressure on the Quad Force 1 pilots now. Shane is capable of being out in the front and winning, as we've seen him do twice so far today. QTFPV has got to be in the fight for Quad Force 1, and he's just struggling through that castle turn already. He's got to get in the game for his team. They are 10 points behind. They can't go with a 5-all series like this race has begun. Shane in the front. Killian right on him. 1/10 of a second. J-Box around there as well, just pushing past his teammate Killian. Here he is in second. Killian just swings across him, so we're going to have a bit of a fight between the two pilots for Cyclone. And we go under the waffle, and Shane's gone the wrong way! Shane turned and went under the next set of gates and came out at the top. You have to go through at the top and come out at the bottom. No, Shane makes a critical error and is down in the back. It's QTFPV who has to do the charge. He's going to have to show us something that he has been nowhere near showing us all the rest of the Super Final to this point. J-Box and Killian, they're so capable of getting a 7-3 win. Of course they are! Oh, but that's untidy. Killian out in front, J-Box on a quick recovery. Look at that, only 4/10 behind his teammate, whereas he was just a fraction ahead of him. QTFPV, there's opportunities there to catch Killian and J-Box, who aren't doing this perfectly, but QTFPV just can't get it together around this track in lax. We go to the castle for the third time. Killian out in front. J-Box has slowed down. That's no way his full speed out of the castle. Good route through the block tray gates, and these 1, 2, 3 aren't slow. But I don't think he's pushing with everything he's got. He doesn't need to. Quad Force 1 can't keep up with Cyclone. Here's the waffle for Killian, and their team manager Breton, who's always on the pulse for his team, will be telling them in their headsets, you've got this, don't throw it away. You nearly did. But Quad Force 1, thankfully, are also struggling in this run. Don't throw this away. That's what Breton's telling him. That's Killian in the lead. That's J-Box in second, not doing anything crazy. They come in 1 and 2. It's another 7-3 win from Cyclone over Quad Force 1. QTFPV is going to get third because Shane is 10 seconds behind him, limping home in fourth. It's going to Cyclone, and Quad Force 1 are not going to repeat what they did in 2023. Spoiler alert, Quad Force 1 are going out and going to be fourth. Cyclone will continue on their battle towards that World Championship final. There's too much to do here, even if Quad Force 1 come in first, second, third and fourth and get the clean sweep of 10 points. They can't get ahead of Cyclone in the score. So they're racing for pride now and for points towards their finishing places on our Pilot of the Year leaderboard, which means Cyclone's Yayu, J-Box, Killian and Neon, they're not going to make this easy for Quad Force 1 as they all want those maximum points as well. Shane also racing for pride, of course, for Quad Force 1. He hasn't been in very much of the 2024 season. He's nowhere near the top of our leaderboard. Not a chance of him being Pilot of the Year. You have to basically compete in every race to be considered amongst other pilots for that. But he's been so good and had a couple of letdowns. There's another one! Oh no, Shane! I was willing him on, hoping he would get that perfect run and finish with a run he's proud of. Instead, he's 8th. And based on what we saw earlier on, I can't see him fighting back very strongly from there. Yayu, Killian and J-Box can hyper finish this with a bit of pride as well. He is in our top 10 pilots of the year. He's going to end his chase on that title with this race. And he's just dropped out of the points. A Cyclone going to clean sweep Quad Force 1 in their last battle with them at the end of 2024. Oh, for Quad Force 1, what a humiliating and disappointing way to finish their season this could be. We have Yayu, Killian, J-Box and Neon all in simultaneous formation flying now as they snake their way through the gates. They've got to be absolutely loving this. I know Killian would quite like to get to the front past Yayu. He's also not in the running for Pilot of the Year. He's only joined in Split 3, so he hasn't got anywhere near as many points as Yayu and some of his teammates have. J-Box was 4th in the Pilot of the Year before starting this. Yayu, who I mentioned earlier, was 2nd. So J-Box would quite like to outscore Yayu, but it isn't going to happen. Cyclone Racing, ladies and gentlemen, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Then it's Hyper and QTFPV, Screecher and Shane coming home for Quad Force 1. It is a rarely seen clean sweep, 10-0 in the grand final. What a performance from Cyclone Racing after struggling in the round robin earlier. They knock out Quad Force 1, who will be eliminated, sadly, 37 points to 13. What an ending for them. So Quad Force 1 are 4th. Cyclone win that, and now will take on Spain Drone Team for the spot in the grand final. So much history between these teams in this year alone. Yayu and J-Box against Sally 1 and Red Sheep are the first 2v2. I mean, Cyclone Racing have never lost to Spain Drone Team until the first matchup of the Superfinals, when they lost against them in the round robin stage. When they raced in that, Sally 1 and Red Sheep came first and second, ahead of J-Box in third and Yayu in fourth. So there was a 7-3 start to that series in favour of STT. But, like I was saying in the previous series, Yayu seems to have come alive. Nevertheless, he's down in third behind Red Sheep and Sali 1, at least for now. J-Box in fourth. They're well on their way here. On to lap number 2. Sally 1 in first, still ahead of Yayu. Red Sheep staying with them too. J-Box just a fraction, a little bit further behind in fourth place. So this is a better start for Cyclone than they did in STT when they raced them in the first matchup of the Superfinals. But they've never lost to them until earlier today, and that is so significant as a comment on how well STT are flying around here, because Split 3 has not been their best. Split 1 and in fact Split 2 were far better for STT than Split 3 were. In fact, the grand final of the Split 1 finals and the grand final of the Split 2 finals were both contested by Cyclone against Spain Drone Team. Cyclone won both of them. STT were the runners-up of Splits 1 and 2. What is happening today? Cyclone, are they making a late recovery in this Superfinals, getting it together when it matters as you start to get into the elimination races, even though they lost 2 out of 3 of the round robin stage, and the first one of those was to this team. Well, STT need to take heart from their performances earlier, and Yayu's not perfect, just bumping his way out of there. He lost first to Sally 1, and Red Sheep is sniffing all around him, trying to take second from him, and Yayu's into the pylon out of the area that's been causing him problems. He'd made that, he crashed shortly afterwards, but he's still second. I think Red Sheep having a little bit of a struggle of his own. There's his third place, just when maybe Yayu was for the taking. It's not 7-3 like it was at the start of today, but it is 6 points to 4 in favour of the Greens. And Sali 1 is now on 7 wins in 10 races. Killian and Neon against Danube and Platon Air to try and turn this around in race number 2. These pairings so exciting to watch again and again. Worth mentioning at the start of today, Neon won this one, then Danube was second, Killian third, Platon Air was down in fourth. See what happens on this next run while Platon Air is off to a much better start. He's in the fight. Killian just slips past him, and that turns just a little hesitant for young Platon Air, but he's flying very well and definitely contesting second. He's got a little bit of room. Trying to catch up on Neon now. He's closer to Neon than Killian is to overtaking him, so don't let the pressure get to you, Platon Air. Killian slips past him there. Danube is right alongside his teammate. Will be encouraging him and telling him to keep his focus. Platon Air will also have his younger brother, Red Sheep, I'm sure, maybe wanting to send him some messages and talk to him in his headset. Maybe his brothers, Platon Air, will just be like, no, do not talk to me while I'm racing. He's third. Now he's just slipped a fourth behind Danube, but both of them are so close. This is a good run so far. Neon ahead of Killian by 3/10, and then 3/10 more is where we find SDT. Out of the waffle, Neon's flying well. Killian still not caught him. Neon's a little bit further ahead of Killian than he was, and Danube is maybe a little bit closer to the back of Killian than Killian would like, as Killian slipped a little bit in the middle of this lap, but still flying really well, as you can see here, and the green drone's not in front of him just yet. One more lap to go. He hasn't got it all to himself. Look at them coming now. Danube and Platon Air out of the castle. Problems from earlier on seem to have been erased and smoothed out by everybody. Neon's through the block trade geo. This is Killian racing through there as well. He's got a little bit more room now. The charge from Platon Air is just slipped by 2/10, and by Danube by a lot more than that. Neon in and threading out of the waffle nicely. He's not had so many wins in this year as we know he did in 2023, and that was the year that Cyclone joined the DCL. It was unheard of that they made it to the World Championship Superfinal at the end of 2023. There they came fourth. We know they're going to be at least third already this year. Looks like they got eyes on a grand final spot, of course. Neon Killian getting the 7-3 there over Platon Air and Danube. So that's a little bit of a turnaround from when they raced earlier, and that 7-3 makes the advantage even more Cyclones. Now the pairs have to be mixed, and they make these pairings without knowing which pairings have been picked against them. This is something we've always had in the DCL. You have to pick your two pilots, but you don't know who your opponents are lining up against those two. 1/10 between our first two pilots in this, and then between Sally One and Platon Air, and most of a 10th between Platon Air and Neon, so everybody a little bit spread out, but tiny amounts really. Although when you're racing at this level, they're so significant. Now, Yayu won all three of the races he was in against Quad Force 1 just now, and he's in the lead here. And of course, it is Sally One who's racing ahead and taking the lead for SDT. Now, there's a bit of a gap forming between himself and Yayu. Platon Air, not too far behind that second place, would love to get that. These little moves back and forth. Right now it's 6 points to 4. That would tie the series with Cyclone Racing if it finished like this. But 1/10 of a second and two people swap places. And that is a 2-point swing, of course, as you gain a point and the other team lose one. Now we've got Neon just moving past Platon Air, swapping places third and fourth as Platon Air has disappeared to the back and is staying there, had a big crash, lost lots and lots of time. So the chase from Platon Air is over, and Sally One, his teammate, is the one in the lead as they're coming up to the final gate, the A2RL gate, to start the final lap of lap number 3. There's Sally One, so close to Yayu, and Neon just hanging in there as well, but just slipped a little bit. 7/10 between him and this battle between first and second through block train. 1, 2 and 3 DCL gates, the first of the tunnels. There's Fox here comes the Lax tunnel. Sally One still ahead of Yayu, 1/10 of a second. That's all it is, and this is the danger spot for Yayu. A couple of obstacles around here that have claimed him earlier on, but he's still flying well. But Sally One is putting in one of those runs we saw him do where he makes almost no mistakes at all. Yayu is aggressively attacking now. He has to if he wants the win. Those are the obstacles that have cost him some race positions earlier, but not this time. I think he's got Sally One to the finish. And it was that last set where he's crashed repeatedly in the gaps between the snowboarding ramps. He came out of that well, then he moved up through the waffle past Sally One by 0.08 of a second. That's a win for him. Can Killian and J-Box do the same against Danube and Red Sheep? It was 11 points to 9. It's now 17 points to 13. That 6-4 win, putting another 2 points between the teams. The loser will be the third place team in the DCL World Championship for 2024. The winner goes to the grand final to fight Raiden. There's this race and one more to come. So here's Red Sheep in the lead, just ahead of Killian. J-Box then Danube through this pair of difficult dips under the hurdles. Red Sheep still in front of Killian. This is a great showing from him. Red Sheep's continuing here on lap number 2 in the lead ahead of Killian Russo. Remember, Red Sheep is just 9 years old and in his first professional season in the DCL. And Killian has raced in the Drone Champions League for many years, as well as many competitions around the world. A former world champion of the DCL. Now Red Sheep on the climb. Oh, just a little bit too soon and just brushed the ice, and that sent him awkwardly into the banner, which was difficult to recover out of quickly. That's why he's lost about 5 seconds now. Killian has the lead. It's Danube's turn to push and try and pull it back for Spain Drone Team. Killian's out of the waffles and on to the final lap. Danube with a lot to do to catch Killian Russo. Many pilots have tried and failed to catch Killian in real life and simulator races. Killian continues on, almost 2 seconds now, yes, ahead of Danube, who's got a second between himself and J-Box, and Red Sheep sadly still at the back. Killian hasn't picked up many wins today, 2 and 2 second places. Looks like a third win is all but guaranteed to be his, although I use the word guaranteed very nervously in drone racing. Particularly as I have a fairly legendary commentator's curse, but I didn't claim Killian or Danube, J-Box or Red Sheep. They're all in. Killian gets a win ahead of Danube. J-Box coming in third. That's 6 more points for Cyclone. That's a good lead they've got over STT. But unlike the situation against Quad Force 1 heading into the big heat there, it is possible for STT to turn this around. 10 points available. All Cyclone have to do is come third. They'll get 2. That'll be enough to, at worst, draw the series. Yayu has no intention of Cyclone or himself being third, and nothing better than that in this race. So he's going to scrap with Sally One. Neon wants a bit of that as well. I gotta say, for Yayu, it's not as smooth as he can fly. There's a little bit of throwing his drone at the obstacles, big turns, and then just sort of sailing through rather than coasting through in one fluid motion. That's why Sally One has caught him and briefly was ahead, and Yayu isn't coming out of that very tidily. So at the end of lap number 1, Sally One leads Yayu by by less than a tenth of a second, and Red Sheep is ready to pounce as well, and then all of Cyclone are trying to get past him. There's Yayu's look at Sali 1 as they now head back, and Yayu on that turn through the 3 gates. So that's gone from bad to worst, and he's gone from 2nd to 7th. That absolutely ruined him. That was a DCL gate square on, and the bounce from that just knocked him all out of shape. So Sali 1 has got the lead still, but where Yayu has fallen, this man Neon is trying to step up. He's in 2nd, and there's a half a second between him and Sali 1, and Red Sheep is in there as well now. Yes, for Red Sheep. He's not giving up, so Neon with more to do than he expected. But Spain drone team have got to come 1st and 2nd and more in these top 4 places. They have to get at least 8 points to tie this series. That's 1st, 2nd and 4th. Sali 1 and Red Sheep are where they need to be. But Platon Air and Danube, one of those has got to get into the top 4. Or Cyclone are going to get to the World Championship final ahead of STT. But only just. Oh, it's a little untidy for Red Sheep. He's throwing himself at this through the duo here between the ramps. Good flying from him. He's still trying to catch Neon, who's just there ahead of him, and Sali 1 was all rolling and aggressively attacking that and being brave, but he's lost 2nd and 3rd to 4th. And he and his brother put their heads in their hands. That's heartbreaking to see. Red Sheep and Platon Air so disappointed. They gave it everything they could. Sali 1 gets another win, but his record on this track is going to stop there. It is 5 points all in race 5. Cyclone will go to the World Championship final over SDT by 28 to 22. What a fight that was! It means congratulations or commiserations to SDT, their 3rd place in the DCL World Championship for 2024. Here is the World Championship final. Raiden against Cyclone. Good luck to both teams. Halo Walker and Valprim against Yayu and J-Box to get this underway. 5 races to settle the title for the DCL. Halo Walker in a fight with both of Cyclone's J-Box and Yayu, and Valprim where he likes to be, in front of everybody. He's won 7 races of the 9 he's been in so far. That is incredibly good flying. He's still ahead of Yayu as they twist their way towards the duo here, diving between and under the hurdles. Yayu's had a few scary moments there, but not this time. He's taken the lead. Valprim has given it to him and fallen out of this. Where did Valprim go so wrong as to lose so much time? And why now, he must be thinking. Raiden in the driving seat, getting into this grand final, but are behind both of Cyclone's pilots by some way. Valprim dropping 4 seconds, and Halo Walker, who was in the scrap, is now 20 seconds out of this. This race is as good as done. Yayu and J-Box could be leading Cyclone to a 7-3 start over Raiden in the World Championship final. I said at the beginning, of all of these 4 teams, only Raiden have known what it's like to be the DCL World Champions. They won that in 2021 when they stopped X-Blades, who were the 5-time consecutive winners at that time. Then they won it again in 2022, a brilliant performance from Raiden, which saw them lose it to X-Blades last year. We'll get a new winner this year. Will it be Raiden getting that title back? Well, this race is a bad start for them. Could it be Cyclone, who win this race and go on to win the world title? They only joined the DCL as an amateur team last year. They have been on an incredible run. Absolutely brilliant in their first year. Then they made it and won the Split 1 final, the Split 2 final, and the Split 3 finals throughout this year. They arguably deserve to be the world champions and are favourites to do so, but they've still got to beat Raiden, so this is exactly the start they needed. 7 points to 3 with Yayu in the win, but Valprim crashing early was a big reason why they got those points. Vicen Mayan and IQ0 need to turn that around against Killian and Neon. Now, arguably, although such great pilots as Killian and Vicen are, in the simulator, I don't think Vicen is scared of anybody, and IQ0 is always willing to have a go too. This is a good chance, I think, for Raiden to claw back those points. I reckon they can beat Killian and Neon and potentially square this series up after the 2 races. Killian and Neon clearly want to prove me completely wrong, and I've got the lead in Killian's hands at the start of lap number 2, and Neon is trying to get past Vicen Mayan for second place as well. So the race is on, but I've told you many, many times, if Vicen Mayan is chasing you, the race is not yours until your drone is stopped in the finish gate, props have stopped spinning, and the race is definitely conclusively 100% over, because any time prior to that, he might get past you. 2/10 is what he'll have to find to get past that purple drone as he chases it into the waffle. Killian, I think, definitely for the taking for Vicen Mayan, but Neon's around there too. IQ0 needs to get back into that fight if he can. Needs to make some bolder, tighter turns. He's a little bit slow there, dropping through that split S and loses a little bit of time in doing so. That's untidy for Vicen Mayan, but it's kind of giving him the kick he needed, as I think now he's really going to push for it. Neon's in front of him. Killian there as well. 2/10 between them. 2 or 3/10 between that pair and Vicen. This is Killian's view in the lead. He'll go through the split S. Might get a bit of company around there from his teammate, just distracting him a little. You've got to hold your focus. So has Neon, who will have just seen Vicen across the top of him. He's not in front of him yet, and there's hardly any time left. Killian leading Neon through the final turns. Vicen's not going to get the win. He's going to watch 1 and 2 going in front of him. It's another 7 points to 3 win for Cyclone. In fact, these two races, when these pairs of pilots matched up in the round robin earlier, those races were 5 points all. Cyclone have won them this time round 7 points to 3. Valprim and IQ0 have got to stop Yayu and Neon, or this World Championship final is getting very one-sided. Everybody into the split S, out of the castle. There's Yayu alongside Valprim. Barely 100th of a second between the two of them, and still extremely tight. IQ0, less than a 10th behind both of these. And then it's Neon, who's in the battle as well, a 10th of a second, maybe 2. Valprim leading through the waffle. He can't make the mistake he did last time. Instead, he's got to do what he did in about 9 races earlier, which is win everything, or come in a very close second. Even that second really doesn't want that now. Heading on to the start of lap number 2. Valprim still in the lead. IQ0 still in the back of things. Gotta move. Gotta get these points. Gotta get past Neon and ideally Yayu as well. But I don't know if IQ0 has quite got the speed that they do. Valprim seems like he can beat everybody. The only person who's going to cost him a win is himself and a crash. But Yayu is looming there. Valprim, very focused. I've rarely, if ever, seen him be put off or struggle under pressure. He's been absolutely phenomenal throughout the entire year. An incredible find for the Raiden Racing team. So important for them. Valprim is easily their highest scoring pilot in the whole of 2024. In fact, he's 3rd on our Pilot of the Year leaderboard prior to this Super Finals. He has more points than pilots who've raced 20 more races than he has. He's been so very good, and right now he's really showing us how good he is again. This is the final lap. He's still ahead of Yayu. That gap hasn't changed. Yayu hasn't made any dent in it at all. Unfortunately, neither has IQ0, trying to catch Neon in 3rd place. Valprim is really smooth. I was pointing out earlier how Yayu was maybe turning a little bit too soon and then going through an obstacle rather than smoothly pre-turning and flying quickly through them. It seems easier for Valprim, smoother, and the win is his again. Then Yayu, then Neon, then IQ0. That's no good for Raiden. It doesn't increase Cyclone's lead. It doesn't decrease it either. It's 5 points all. Raiden, they don't get any closer to the world title with that race. Halo Walker and Vicen Mayan, Killian and J-Box. 2 races to go. We need to see the best of everybody now in this last 2v2 and then the DCL big heat. And Raiden need a lot of points. They're 8 behind. The best they can get here is a 7-3 win and close that gap by 4. And they don't seem to have been very close to coming 1st and 2nd against Cyclone Racing in this grand final. Now Vicen is doing what he needs to do, and Halo Walker is past both of the Cyclone pilots. He was 4th, he went 3rd and then 2nd, and he's still there. J-Box just flashing around him a couple of times. Halo Walker, he's been nowhere near 2nd place in basically every race he's flown around Lax. He's got to do it now, but unfortunately he's slipped back to 4th. That's because of a slow and wider turn outside of one of the last gates before starting lap number 2. Wasn't bad by any means, it was just better for Killian and J-Box. Now they pursue Vicen Mayan, and Halo Walker is still with them. That's so important for Raiden right now. Vicen has to win, or Halo Walker! One of the Raiden pilots, the other one needs really to be second, or they're going to go to the big heat with so much to do. Somehow, Vicen is still ahead of Killian, even though his quad crashed into the ice and just clipped it. It managed to keep flying. He's managed to keep it in the lead. And Halo Walker is past J-Box. He's gone back past him again. When one of them crashes, then the other one does as well. So they're having their own battle in third and fourth. That means Halo Walker is looking like second is going to be too far away from him with this one lap to go. So we've got one Raiden pilot in a battle for first and second, one in a battle for third and fourth, and they both need to win those fights. And Vicen is doing what he can ahead of Killian Rousseau. Into the waffle, little bit awkward on the route in there. I didn't like the speed from that too much, but he's still where he needs to be. And Killian has slipped fractionally behind him during this lap so far. Now they're coming up to the last of the waffles. Killian has gained on Vicen again, but Vicen has come out of that very well, and I don't think Killian's got him at A2RL. He closed it, but not quite enough. It is Vicen getting the 4 for Raiden, but then Killian gets 3, with J-Box getting 2 for Cyclone. Halo Walker ends up just with the 1 point when it looked like he could get more. It is 5-all. It does nothing to help Raiden win the World Championship title. Cyclone go into the final race, the DCL Big Heat, with an 8-point lead, and the World Championship title is so close to being theirs. Raiden have to score 9 points now to tie it up. 10 will make them World Champions. That's first, second, and third at least. So Vicen is at the front, and if it's not him, if Al Prim wants to get that big win, and Yayu is trying to upset things. IQ 0, Halo Walker, they're just around that 4 top places, but Vicen Mayan, their talisman, their best pilot up until maybe 2024, the pilot who can win points when surely no one else can. He was down in 7th, and he's fighting back up from there with his Raiden teammates. At the front on lap number 2, Yayu is back in the lead. Valprim all around him, trying to close on him and gaining on him at every one of these gates as they charge around the second lap. Now we go to the trickier part of the course. First this duck under the banner, into this waffle. Yayu with the shaky pre-turn, close, then wide, and then too tight. Brushes against it, drops from first to 5th. And Neon is the only one from Cyclone in that important top 4, but he's second. Now he's third. Vicen has gone past him. Yayu pushes back into the top 4. He's not done yet, and there's 1 lap to go for the World Championship title. IQ 0 needs to be in third, not 5th. Halo Walker moves up into 6th to try and help. Still Cyclone have 2 pilots in that all-important top 4. They're Yayu and Neon, and they're keeping IQ 0 away from the points he really needs to score. Valprim and Vicen Mayan, they're looking pretty untouchable at the front. That's pretty secure for Raiden. Now watch, Valprim's going to do the split S and see everyone coming. Don't blink! There they are. Little reminder, it's very, very busy behind him. Yayu has fallen back through the field, though. It's now 3 places for Raiden. They need it to be the top 3. IQ 0 can take this to 1 more race. He's got to get past Neon. Valprim's got first. Vicen's got second. Neon's got third. Yayu, his teammate, limps around the end, but it doesn't matter. That is 8 points for Raiden. They needed 9! Neon hanging on in third is the reason Raiden are 1 point short of what they needed, and Cyclone Racing are the new world champions! So close at the end! Commiserations to Raiden Racing, who will be disappointed having been so close, but what a battle they gave us. They are the runners-up, the 2nd place in the World Championship. SDT are 3rd. And this incredible performance is made even more incredible when you remember that Cyclone were an amateur team in their first year last year. They made it into the professional series. They won the Split 1, Split 2 and Split 3 finals when we raced in locations as amazing as on the Yas Marina Formula 1 circuit and also in Abu Dhabi's Adnex Centre. Wherever we went, Cyclone were the winners and the World Championship title is theirs. Yayu also successfully wins Pilot of the year with the highest score of heat points gained in all of his races. I think he is the only pilot who's ever won Rookie of the Year and then gone on to win Pilot of the Year in a later season. Behind him, J-Box was 4th, Neon was 7th. We say congratulations as well to the rest of their roster. Killian, along with the Ice Cheetah, Zion FPV, Raspberry, and of course their manager, Papa Woody. Breton Woodford, what an amazing team you have created. Staying with the Pilot of the Year scores, congratulations to Valprim from Raiden, who was the runner-up, and Silvio from STT, who was 3rd. Vicen Mayan, also from Raiden, was the 5th place pilot. And DCL's 2024 Rookie of the Year for the highest scoring pilot of all of our newcomers goes to the brilliant legend in the making. It's Spain Drone Team's Red Sheep, who scored so many points. Not only was he highest scoring rookie, he was in fact 10th out of everybody in Pilot of the Year. We're the Drone Champions League. You can always keep up with us at social media and, of course, play DCL the game for a chance to join us in the draft, where new pilots get to enter the DCL for 2025. We'll be back with more virtual and real-life races. Until then, thank you for all of your support. I've been Matt Andrews, and congratulations again to our new world champions. We'll see you, and we'll see Cyclone in the skies.